Good evening and welcome to the Rules and Public Policy meeting for today, August 28th, 2023. First of all, I would like to welcome our newest member, Ms. Donna Bruner.
Hello, North College Hill.
Thank you so much for joining us. I emailed the agenda to you all today, and I want to apologize. I was in a trial all last week and today. I'm always in trial. But I will endeavor to get that to you in enough time, plenty enough time next month and going forward. But it's been a long week and a half. So on our agenda, this is mainly what we've just been talking about. The one, I'm going to bounce around a little bit before, as far as the council rules are concerned, I really believe that we need to do a committee of the whole meeting.
Yes.
For that, so that we can update our council rules to include just some things that we need to address and some of the things that we have been talking about. So is it best to, Ms. Dewall, just to add that to the agenda, the council agenda? What do we need to do with that?
Or we can, it wouldn't be the night of a committee, of a council meeting.
Right.
It would have to be, like, we could make your agenda for next month a committee of the whole meeting.
Oh, I see, and then just have everybody come to that committee meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Or, pick another night.
Okay, I see. So, do we talk about it at a council meeting? How do we do that?
Well, yeah, you could bring it up and tell them what we think we want to do. And then if that floats, then we can make it concrete.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have an update? Ms. Iki couldn't be here today with regard to the facility use policy. I don't believe that we've received that in email yet.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The facility use policy?
I've not received it.
Anybody? Okay, so we'll follow up with Ms. Iki, and I'm sure she'll send me an email. She's very good about watching the meetings. So I will follow up with Ms. Iki and Ms. Clear about that. Does anybody know if the senior center is back open, or is it back up and running?
It is up and running. I'm not real positive. Is it Monday and Thursday that they're open? Does anybody know for sure?
I believe it's Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday?
I
Okay.
believe. I'm not
Yeah, it's just
sure,
2
though,
days a
but
week
it
at
is
this
2
time.
days a week.
They had announced it at our last meeting, I just don't remember the days.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
It is 2
exciting.
days a week.
that's good.
Okay.
It's 2 days a week.
Are you taking notes?
Yes, Ms. Zorb is sick.
Because I was taking them if you want me to do it.
Oh, okay, I
I
didn't
mean,
realize
you
that.
may continue, because I don't want to knock off your pedestal there, girl. Because I can't type as fast as I talk.
Okay, so did anybody else have any input with regard to the facility use policy? It's my understanding that there was someone who wanted to use council chambers for something. Is that something that we want to include in the facility use policy? Let me move my microphone around. So I'm
Do we
talking
have-
into the
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, do we have presidents? Do we have guidelines set up for what this room could be used for?
That's a good
I don't
question.
believe so, so I think that maybe we should do that.
That's a good idea.
I
Excuse
feel
me,
like
I
it
want to
should
get.
be meetings
you back
only.
up on the water.
Seems like it should be,
Weddings.
seems like it should be meetings. That's the layout, meetings only. And probably no food. Oh, but we've had food in here before. Uh-oh. CIC has had food in here before.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
do they conduct weddings in here, or?
Not that I'm aware of,
Oh, really?
but again,
Or ceremonies?
I say not
Not
that I'm
weddings.
aware of. I have no idea. I
What
don't
was that
know.
question? I'm sorry.
Do they have any kind of
Cere-
weddings or other
ceremonies.
ceremonies in here?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, because it's not really set up to be a party room at all.
No,
not-
ceremony.
I
Or
know that,
wedding ceremony.
Yeah, just a ceremony.
I know that there have been people who have been sworn in.
Okay.
Council members have been sworn in this room, and,
Yeah.
but outside of that, I'm not aware that anybody has, like our officers are sworn
Right.
in during council meetings.
CIC has meetings in here,
So
third Thursday of
yeah,
every
beyond
month.
that, I'm not sure. And I know the Board of Zoning Appeals has meetings in here as well.
Oh,
Mm.
code enforcement. I was here one time for a
Yeah,
code enforcement meeting.
yes.
So mainly, sounds like just a meeting place. I mean, that's kind of how it's set up.
I'm still not losing hope for remodeling council chambers, but, I just, I don't know. I guess everything's fine for the moment.
What were the ideas, Madam Chair? What were the ideas? Like painting or
Well,
ceiling?
so, I've made the rounds for different council chambers, and I've taken some pictures of other council chambers. So Lockland, Wyoming, Cincinnati. Who else have I seen recently? Probably a couple of more that I've seen. And Forest Park.
Coleraine has a nice one. But of course, they only have 3
Yeah.
trustees.
Right. And they just have it's kind of, all of them kind of have like a horseshoe
effect.
shape in one way or another. Either a horseshoe or like a square horseshoe. And it's like kind of individual seats. Some of them are connected in different ways, but it's,
Okay.
individual kind of seats, and just more of a, I don't know, more of a professional
Layout
look.
of it?
Just, and, I've got to believe that there has to be a way, even if we talk to a carpenter, who can put something like that together. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. So,
Yeah, it would be nice to have matching tables.
right,
And
just,
one of the oth- Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
One of the other things we discussed was which wall. We originally thought we would tear this wall down,
Right,
but that one makes more sense to
Right.
widen this room and then use this behind space as the caucus room.
right.
Okay.
Just to, to make it more spacious and, just more, have it more,
Professional.
more professional in the way that, so that it looks the way it's supposed to look, to me.
And Mount Healthy has a nice setup, too.
Mount Healthy, that's the one I've seen
Mount
as well.
Healthy.
I've
Yes,
been in there before, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
and they're not, it didn't look like it cost millions of dollars to put those chambers together, the ones that I'm describing, maybe the city of Cincinnati, but the other ones certainly not. I mean, the space is no bigger than what we have here. It's just, they have, the professional desk, so.
And if I recall, the council chambers we used to have in the police station was the Public Works built it all.
Right.
And it was on a platform
Yes,
like,
right.
it was great.
Right, and I recall that from years ago as well, when it was down the street, and I didn't realize Public Works had built it, but, I mean, I really think that it's something that, a carpenter can build for us, so,
Right.
again, I don't know what the cost of that would be, but it's gotta be less expensive than going to, whomever,
Right, using a small business, I think, is always better.
right. So, still throwing that out there. We'll get there eventually,
Yeah.
maybe. Or we'll keep our little hodgepodge tables with our skirts and,
That Mary Jo and I put up, that
Yeah.
short after we put them up,
Our
they had
skirts,
place,
our
something that
skirts.
went on in here that involved kids.
oh, no.
Oh, yeah. These would be on the floor. That's why you see it so shabby now. We had them up there evenly with invisible things, and it,
Yeah, and it just gets ripped down.
yeah, it was havoc.
Yeah.
So, that's
Okay.
that.
Right. So the next thing that was on our agenda was the parental ordinance. And apparently, I did receive some emails about that. Apparently, we have one.
Yes, we do.
It just needs to be enforced. So Chief Schrand is supposed to be joining us this evening for public safety. So I think that we'll ask him about that. But we already have a parental ordinance, so it's not something that we need to, we actually have a curfew as well, which is interesting.
Interesting.
So, wasn't something that I was aware of, but I am aware of it now. So,
Madam Chair,
yes, ma'am.
was this curfew since school started or
It's period.
just,
All year round.
all
Yes,
year
ma'am.
round?
It's supposed to
And
be.
I believe the hour, it might be as early as 11 o'clock. I'm not
Right.
sure if it's midnight.
I can't remember.
Usually it's 10, 11, and sometimes it's 10, 11, and 12, depending on the age group.
Right, I think it's dependent on the age group, and also, there's a parental component, so if you're out with your parents, it's okay, but, just to be wandering around, and that's not okay, so. Playing basketball in the middle of the street in the middle of the night, not okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The council charter, anybody have anything with regard to that?
No, but I think there's a lot of hoops we have to jump through.
Yeah,
There
we would
probably
have to
another-
have I was on that before I got on council,
Yeah.
city council. I was actually on the committee to amend the charter, so I'm familiar with the process. There are some things in the charter that I don't really like. I just really think that either, I don't know, for example.
It can be tweaked, for sure.
Right, there are some things that just need to be, I mean, I think for political reasons, we don't want to change things or whatever, but I really just think that sometimes there needs to be a person who can just say, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, goodbye, and,
So my husband and my best friend, they were on the first committee when we first voted in the charter. And I do believe that some of it was political,
yeah.
because but I wasn't on the committee, so there you go.
I can tell by the
They
way
wouldn't
that it
let me.
reads. I just think that sometimes, and sometimes, things can be done by committee, but sometimes not, sometimes, if there's one person and, there has to be a chain of command and there needs to be one person at the top of the chain and not just, either council or the mayor, and you give it to one or the other, and you say, we're gonna take a vote, and that's the end of it. That way we can, because right now it's just too much of a gray area, some things
Right.
are. So I just, I don't know, it's kind of floating around up there, but, when do I have time to schedule another meeting to do anything else?
Madam Chair, that was one of the first questions I asked when I first got here. Who enforces things? Things that was one of my very first questions. Who enforces things?
It's I don't know. I think it bears having a deeper conversation about it, but we probably need to narrow down what we want to target within the charter and maybe wait to see who our next mayor will be and see what we, how we want to handle it, just, and not make it political, just certain things the mayor just needs to be able to do, just, and then that way, if something goes wrong, we can look at the mayor like, okay, fix it.
Make a decision.
Just a thought. Okay, so old business. Does anyone have any old business for us?
Did we miss council rules?
Hmm?
We didn't miss 4?
Yes, I did. I talked about that first. That was the one where I said I wanted to have the committee
Okay.
of the whole meeting.
Okay.
So what we're
Oh,
going to
that
do
was
is add it to the council agenda
Okay.
to schedule the committee of the whole meeting
Okay.
when I think everybody can come, so we can update the council rules.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what we're
Okay.
gonna do with that.
Okay, I'm caught up.
Because we were working on them during,
Caught up.
yeah. It'll take us forever to keep talking about them and then try to, if we just all get together and just knock them out, I think we can probably get it done more quickly.
We had a good start on them, and then
Oh,
it
for
just kind
sure.
of flew off the shelf,
Right.
so.
I remember watching a meeting. Were y'all going through the book?
Right, we
I
were,
remember watching that meeting.
Wow, good for you.
okay, so any other old business? What about new business? I have some new business. So I have an idea. I know that we have a summer schedule or a summer session. And I know when I first joined council, I was like, why do we need that? But now I know why we need that. So, what do you all think about perhaps just having a month where we don't have any, I mean, we have to have a council meeting, but we don't have to have committee meetings every month, do we?
I'd have to read the charter or the.
Oh, right, yeah. I think it says we have to have a certain number per year.
Yeah.
Oh, but not, just certain.
Right.
Okay.
Like, we have to have a council meeting every month, but not necessarily a committee meeting every month. And I thought that if we just had a summer session, and again, I'm just throwing it out there, just throwing something out there. I know I used to didn't think it was a good idea, but now I'm like, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, but if you'll notice, during the summer is when everything picks up and we have to have extra meetings.
Absolutely.
I know.
That's
Isn't
why
that
I was,
funny?
yeah, that's why I was so,
Slide
yeah.
our face then.
I know, I was just kind of like, why are we having a summer session? We're having all these extra meetings anyway.
I know, I thought the same thing.
We just like to give the illusion.
I know when the president asked me, he said, Ms. Bruner, he said, when is your next council meeting? I went all the way to September. I had just forgot about August. It seemed like I had just.
Right.
I said, "It's next month." He was like, well, you got one in August. I'm like, I just had one.
Right.
Yeah, they sneak up on you, and
They do.
and I just, there's no way around them, unfortunately.
Well, the good news is we're finished with the silly summer sessions that we
lot.
never really get.
Right.
So next month starts our
Just regular.
regular
yeah.
sessions.
Let me see.
It doesn't seem like we had a break, because we
We are in
used
here a
our
lot.
second meeting of the month for meetings that we, you know what I mean, we
Right.
had to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So any other new business?
Committee meeting.
There's really nothing going on in rules a whole lot, I think. And, well, let me ask you guys this, because I'm going to ask Ms. Dewald, because we're going to defer to her since she's been on council the longest, one way or another. So how did it come to be that there's 4 committees?
I was not in on that one. I think my husband was probably on council at the time. We used to have 7 committees.
Whoa, oh,
7?
that's outrageous. Okay. 7 committees.
I believe it was 7, because
And they
as a
trimmed
newbie, I
Was-
got fire department, and I'm like, what am I going to do with that? No,
Trimmed them
it was
down.
okay.
Okay.
Combined them. Did they
Probably.
And
combine
then they
them?
eventually combined them.
That's what I was
Because
thinking.
my committee has city, community development, recreation.
Exactly.
And when I heard that, I say, well, did this come from something else? This
Yeah,
is long.
right,
Yeah.
It's long, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so that's what it was. It started off at 7 and
7,
whittled
yeah.
down to 4.
right.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, what Ms. Bruner brought up, city could probably be split between public policy and, I don't know what all they do with the city stuff, though.
I just thought that maybe if we could have 3 committees instead of 4, I don't know how we would organize that, but maybe that's what we could do. I don't know.
I know that it seems
Because I
like
just think
bu-
the budget committee should probably have, that meeting should be longer.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's,
because
it
Yes,
is
of
a
my-
committee
because of my
within itself, nothing can
age-old-
be added to the budget. It's
Because
Because
really
my age-old commitment
full.
to the city, we
Some-
didn't finish a meeting until we were finished with the topic. We didn't set it
Right.
for an hour and leave.
Right, and I
Oh,
think that we just,
interesting.
I think, yeah, and I can remember coming to meetings and also watching meetings that were way longer
Oh,
than
yeah.
our meetings that we have. And I do try to respect everyone's time. Sure. But, and honestly, these 2 committees aren't the committees that take the bulk of the time. But I think that if we were to somehow, kind of rework public safety, rules and public policy, and city community development, if we rework those 3, those committees into make those 2 committees somehow, I don't know. What do you guys think? Just tell me if I'm way off here or something, because I just think that budget and finance just needs to have a longer meeting.
Yeah.
Well, they do.
It's almost like
Absolutely they
tonight
do.
could be one committee, because sometimes we're done
Right,
a little bit
absolutely.
early, and then we have to
Right.
wait till 7:30 for public.
That's because we
Yes.
don't have somebody long-winded, just, talking to be talking. And
Yes.
I wasn't
And,
gonna allow that anyway, but-
the recreation director, she's in half of my meetings.
Yeah,
Right.
she does.
So she
yeah.
makes up a lot of time for that meeting.
So I don't think your
sometimes.
meeting could be combined with anything. That's a full hour.
Yeah, with my
Community
meeting and the
development and
recreation director,
That's
so.
a full
Right.
hour.
Yeah, that's about
That's a full hour. So is budget.
yeah,
Yep,
those
no,
two.
budget is the one that needs the 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to, or maybe we could structure the other meetings to where those 3 meetings meet on the same day, and they meet maybe one at 6, one at 7, or one at 5, one at 6, and one at 7.
I
Maybe we
can't
could
do
do
the
it that
5
way.
o'clock. I
Yeah,
can't,
who
that's
could
really
make it 5
early.
o'clock? I
I
mean,
couldn't do the
even I
5
would have trouble
o'clock.
with that, and I'm retired.
Yeah,
I'm not home from
Or-
running around yet.
Or 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, we could do it that way.
6 is better for me. They
I
gotta-
mean, I'm
yeah.
just trying to, I'm just throwing out some
Exactly,
ideas,
because-
nothing.
Brainstorming.
We're brainstorming, just
Yes.
trying to
makes
figure out,
sense.
because I just feel like with, because we get these documents in budget and finance, and it's like, we get these documents, and it's like, okay, do you have any questions? Like, well,
Whoa.
I need some time to
Well,
look at it,
Miss
and,
Eakes kind of fixed that because she sent that out like on a Friday night. So we
Right.
had the weekend to look at that. So I think we're going to see a lot, a big improvement on communication with the finance records.
Budget.
Okay. all right. Just throwing the idea out there, and then if it was 7 and it was whittled down to 3, so that probably, or whittled down to 4, I should say. So
I'm on 7. I'm on 4.
Well,
That's
you know,
fine.
it gives us something to think about and digest, so. I could probably even reach out to someone in the past and find out exactly how many committees there were. But sometimes we would be here till 11, 11:30, and I was like everybody else, I worked. 2 of them owned their own businesses, so.
Yeah,
You know.
it's just, I mean, I just don't like just having the feeling that we're not finishing things,
Yeah, we're not.
you know,
We
that,
just-
that need to be finished.
I mean, look
It's
how many
a time
times we talk about traffic
restraint.
calming, probably every
Right,
month, and
right,
we're no
and we-
further ahead
and
than
we-
we were.
And we know, we just don't get anything done, but I think that we're gonna have to, with regard to the traffic calming, just as an example. So sometimes we gotta make a decision, and we just gotta go with it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, we'll come back and rework it again,
Right.
but we've gotta do something. And I have some ideas, I think, that's the next meeting, but I'm like, I'm all for, let's do something, and then, because, I can slow traffic down, we can slow it down. And if that means that everybody flies down Winton instead of down Hamilton, okay, bye.
I know.
I just, all of I get feedback when I'm not here about some of these things, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be upset because people who want to speed down Hamilton Avenue
allowed.
don't want to, are threatening to go drive down Winton instead?
What?
Right, okay.
Gee, that hurt.
That's less
That makes
congestion.
me so sad.
Ricky driver someplace else.
Okay, well, that was my new business, just maybe the committee structure, and just, that's it. My action items, I obviously need to follow up on the facility use policy and the parental ordinance. Anybody else have any other action items for us?
The only thing we had from last month's meeting, we talked about it in the beginning, the updated fee schedule for traffic violations. I know you
Right.
talked about that. And then, of course, the JMA traffic study. I don't know if anyone has reached out to them. I think
That's
Ms.
public
Eakes-
safety.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
How did it
I'm
get
always
in this
bringing
meeting?
up public
Because we
safety
just
stuff.
brought up traffic calming as an example of
Okay.
something that we keep talking about, but we haven't
Okay.
really done anything with,
Well,
so.
then, the next one should be on the next meeting,
Yeah,
too.
so, right. Okay, so, it seems as though we've actually completed everything we needed to complete for today. And again, I just really think that, I don't know, rules,
So,
maybe we could, I have an idea. Maybe with Ms. Bruner's, maybe we can switch and put rules where community development is, and put community development where rules is, as far as the
Like a
meeting
swap.
schedule. And have the rules and public policy meeting as a 30-minute meeting, and then the budget and finance meeting as a 2-hour
A
meeting.
longer meeting.
yeah,
That might work, right?
yeah.
Well, I say that it's just the first part.
She was
Just
like-
go back over the first part. I got the
So-
last part.
So switch, switch rules and public policy with city community development. I don't even know the entire
those
name of the
city
committee. Right. Switch those two meeting days and time. Like how we just switch places.
Okay, just the days
That way-
and times.
Right. That way, city and community development still has the hour. And then rules and public policy, most of the time, not all, but most of the time, we get finished within that 30-minute time
Oh,
frame.
it's a shorter.
So it's it's a shorter meeting, so we could just have that meeting right before budget and finance, and then have budget and finance have a 2-hour meeting instead.
Oh, okay.
So,
I got you.
Madam Chair, how would that affect our going over the council rules then? Because we're going to have a committee of the whole for that.
Well,
And so we'll probably have to have 2 committee of the whole meetings for
well,
that.
you know that there's going to be some pushback, because we always have pushback, so.
Yeah.
However, I did take the liberty of reading the rules. And if Ms. Bruner and I agree to switch places with the meetings, then the meetings switch places. So we can talk about
Yeah,
it.
that's not an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the committee of the whole, that would impact the committee of the whole meeting, but, yeah, I don't know, so.
So budget and finance, I have a whole day, I mean, they're a whole
They would
2-hour
have
meeting.
2 hours, right.
Roughly,
Well, I
or
think that,
more.
it would
You
be
did
easier to
6:30
stay
to
an extra
7.
30 minutes, or we can start 30 minutes early or something. You know what I mean? We could start at 6 for rules, right? Mm-hmm. And then 6 to 6:30, and then budget and finance could go 6:30 to 8:30.
Okay.
What do you think?
6
Yes,
is
no?
hard for me.
Huh?
It's
That's
hard for
hard
her
for me.
6.
It is. I mean, I know, this stuff is, it is. I'm just trying to figure out how we can be more,
I'm flexible.
right, more, what's the word I'm looking for? More effective, or, just make better uses of our time.
Better
Yes,
Yes, because we are in here a lot with
Better
these
use
extra
of time.
meetings.
right. And again, it's
Get stuff
mostly,
done.
it's mostly budget stuff. And, I agree we need to talk about budget stuff, but, can we just allot more time for it so we can get it done? I don't know. Just a thought. So, I'll,
Madam Chair, while we have time.
yes.
Just thoughts that are going through my head. I don't mind change. I don't understand why we would make the change. Because I'm still stumbling over the fact that, so tonight we talked about the facility use policy, and all we do is agree that we need to make rules for it. So I don't know why we couldn't sit here and try to develop some kind of rules and,
Actually, I think that Ms. Iki has them.
oh, okay.
I think that she already has the policy together. She's just
Perfect.
going to email it to us.
Okay.
I just haven't received it in email yet. And so she's already done, like, the heavy lifting on that. I think maybe she was following up with Mr. Dieters about it, but,
Most likely.
yeah, so it's already
Okay.
done. I think the only thing that we would need to do, once we get it from her, is kind of maybe make some kind of something about council chambers, like who can use council chambers for what purpose, and, like, for example, no food, because it's not conducive to food, and, just,
They have with the little
Right.
kids here, cupcake crumbs. and-
right, exactly. So, just little things like, like that. So we, but she already she's already done the heavy lifting, so, yeah.
May I?
Yes?
And because we own the senior center now, a lot of that stuff can be done at the center.
Yes.
That's going to be rentable.
Right, you know what, that's a good point. So a lot of things can happen at the senior center. That's absolutely correct. So, and I'm sure that there's some kind of how, when people can, because I know she talked about a contract and deposits and that kind of waivers and that kind of thing. So we just need to kind of follow up and get that document and from her. Anything else?
Nope.
We always still get done early, but, I think, when we have our committee of the whole, it'll be, we'll get through all the time. We'll use all of our time. And I'm going to adjourn our meeting at a 7:11. Gives us 20 minutes to kind of get ready for the next meeting and maybe go through that contract that we have to review at the next meeting. That'll be fun. Thank you. missed 7:30, so 7:30, are we ready? Okay, so good evening. Welcome to the North College Hill Public Safety Committee meeting, and welcome to Chief Schran, who's here with us this evening to kind of give us some updates. So on our agenda, did everybody receive a copy of the agenda? So the first thing on our agenda is police department updates, and I will turn that over to Chief Schran.
Okay. I think a couple of updates. I'll start with some of the good. I know from the police department standpoint, we were accepted or were approved for a reimbursement grant under the ARPA funding from the state of Ohio. The first round, and they put it into several different phases. The first phase we were approved for was about $13,000 for creating a mental health response program. And I was excited about that because we were able to put in a peer support program and work with a company or a group called Tri-State Peer Support that does a lot of counseling and a lot of just different help after critical incidents and events. We were able to put that into play and into focus, and that unfortunately was good timing because we called on that group a lot when Officer Unwin from Springfield Township died in that critical incident that my folks were in. So we were able to lean on that Tri-State Peer Support Program, and that was a good thing as part of that phase 1 of the grant.
Congratulations.
Phase 2 of the grant was for the fire departments, which our fire department got a large chunk of that for their salaries and their things, reimbursements that way. And I know Fells and his folks have been actively working on going through that. And then phase 3 of that was for the police department and those salaries. And North College Hill was awarded, I want to say, $918,000. Somewhere in that ballpark of reimbursement money. Wow. So that was at the end of 22, all of 2023 and 2024, that would reimburse us for 4 officers, hiring incentives, things like that. So I know that I have been doing a lot of work on that end, and I was happy that last week that the first phase of that, or the first quarterly, because it's reimbursement, that I got that check in from the state for $117,000 to go back in to reimburse us for the salaries.
Wow.
Did you say 117 or 170?
117.
Thank you.
Wow, that's really good.
So those things are really, really paying off, going well. And then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, kind of fast forward, we were approved, the police department was approved for phase 5 of that grant, which was an additional $48,000 in retention bonuses. So all of the folks that worked as first responders or police officers here during the time of COVID would be eligible for that, and we were approved. So if we, that $48,000 for the 12 that were here basically would come out to a $4,000 bonus for those folks. And if we pay out that bonus to those folks, then the state would reimburse us for that.
Okay.
So we were given, and that's kind of how that reimbursement grant works. But kind of keeping track of it total-wise, it's just shy of $1 million over 2 years that just the police department alone was granted with that.
Congratulations.
And the fire department is pretty similar. So that's something that we were very excited about. And now that the money is starting to come in, and we've been pretty good stewards of the budget, there's a lot to look up to right there. So that's not the everyday stuff that we hear. I've been around as chief for a little while. That doesn't come; those things don't come often for us. So I'm really excited about that, and it gives me a lot of great hope for the future of being a good steward of those things and seeing what we can do, and try to finally having the resources to make some serious plans moving forward. So I'm really excited about those things. obviously the car show coming up, been working on that. They've had a lot of stolen cars, a lot of vehicle tamperings, things. We've been trying to put those things out. Putting those things out to the public, and the officers have been doing a really good job of being extra vigilant and being on patrol in those areas. I know they've caught a lot of folks, and they're really highlighting on the curfew and the parental responsibility, trying to use those to help crack down on those crimes and the vehicle tamperings and the things in the evening that are happening in the stolen vehicles. Excited to say that the tow lot's going extremely well. Also, the tow lot, the impound lot.
Oh, I thought you were saying, did you say the fill lot then?
He said tow lot.
Tow lot, I'm sorry,
Okay, I
dear.
couldn't get that first word, and I'm like, what is that?
Articulate.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Tow lot.
Impound lot is doing very well. So my last numbers from roughly August, so about 7 months worth of, the 1st of August, we were in the ballpark of about $22,000 profit that we brought in.
You said it would be up there and more by the end of the year.
My hope, from looking at everything, my hope was 25,000. So I think we're doing better than that. I know the officers are really doing a good job, and it's going extremely well. I think also, let's face it, the cost of cars and the inflation rate is kind of helping some of that. When I sold some of the first cars at auction and sold some of the cars to you pull and pay, I was happy with the prices that we got and the stuff that way. So I'm going to be honest, my goal at this point is, somewhere in the ballpark of 30,000+. And my thought process has always kind of been, in my opinion, the things that I need the most of right now for the police department are trained officers in the seats of cruisers. If you look at my budget, and there's some some things that'll be coming that way, right, for reappropriation and whatnot. The biggest line item that I struggle with right now is vehicle maintenance. Because the cars haven't been replaced on a steady turnover, rollover, if you would, where every 3 years, every 4 years, as soon as they're out of warranty, we're turning them over and getting new cars. And the cost of new cruisers is going up,
Right.
Oh, it is.
right?
Oh, for sure.
And so it's something that I would love to get a handle on and kind of have an actual real plan and sit down with council going forward and going, okay, what is it that we want to do? Is it going to be lease? Is that our best option, right?
I thought that we had given you guys or approved the new cars.
So we did, and you did, and we were able to lease the cars. The problem has come in. We were originally going to lease 2 Chevy Tahoes. We put in a bid for those Chevy Tahoes to be built, I want to say like March or April of 2022. I just received that Tahoe probably about a month and a half ago, and I received one. There was no still rhyme or reason to if the other one was going to be built or when it was going to come in. So I ended up saving some money and finding a Dodge Durango that fit our needs, similar to everything else, for about $4,000 cheaper here local. So just then the supply and demand, if you would, all of the other parts like the cage, the electronics, everything else were on back order. So those cars are striped, but I don't have any of the other things in them, and they're due to go up to our vendor to install all of the back seat cage, the lights, the electronics, all of that within the next week or so. And I'm expecting to have those 2 new cars out on the road within the next month.
Okay.
So that being said, I appreciate council in doing that, but that's the issues that I've had, is we ordered those cars and we had that discussion about it roughly April, May of last year, 2022, and I'm still sitting on those cars. I'm still waiting for them to be in. So the other cars that they're due to replace, 2 of them are so expensive to fix. That's why there's 2 cruisers, if not more, sitting in the tow lot, because those were more than $12,000 to fix, and the cars just weren't worth that. So I had to make that tough decision and pull those off the road, put those in there, because my vehicle maintenance budget is already kind of overdrawn, right? And I'm just doing the best I can to try to keep the cars on the road.
So can you just come to, is there any way you can just come back to council and just talk to us or just let us know what you need? Or, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but
No.
I think we all, I know from my standpoint, I would love to see, as many cars as possible. Just with the stop sign issue and, the other, the speeding and the other issues that
How
we
about just
have.
plain running a red light at Hamilton and
Right.
Galbraith?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
My goal is this, and I know it's kind of been a long way to get there because I've just tried to explain all the things that we've had going on. My goal is we have 7 cruisers minus the detective's vehicle, my take-home car and the things that way, and the canine car. We have 7 cruisers in the fleet.
Okay,
So my goal would be to replace 2 a year until you get to that last year where there's only 1, and then we can replace an unmarked vehicle, the detectives, things like that, to keep them newer. But if you were to replace 2 a year, that would mean that the most they would be in service would be about 4 or 5 years. Okay? And so what I'm getting back to is my goal for the tow lot is that the tow lot brings in enough money that we would be able to have that conversation and go, we are now able to compete and we are able to get that realistic goal of 2 a year between what we could budget for in the general fund from council and then what the tow lot would be bringing in to help provide that, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
it does.
What I didn't want to do is just come to everybody on council and say, I need 2 cars a year. The cost of cars is going up and it's going to be about $100,000 and no way to pay for it. Does that make sense?
It
At least
does,
I
but
have
we-
a plan to how to pay for it now, and it's a
You need the
realistic.
cars, so.
Right, and it's a realistic plan that I think is going to offset that. So I'm
Okay.
really excited about that. And then that plus the grants and the other things, honestly, I think everybody's going to be really happy with what we've done so far and what the position we've put ourselves in to be able to provide for the future.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I was just curious, what type of wear and tear do the 2 cars in the lot, what have they experienced? What are they in need of? Is it transmissions or what type of?
So one car is a transmission. I think the other problem is the steering on those. When the front ends go out and you need new ball bearings, new steering, everything in the front ends, it can get very costly as well.
Okay.
And so although those cars, I think in there are 2015s, and they have roughly 100,000 miles on it, a lot of folks look at police cars and say, well, they have 100,000 miles. That's not really that much compared to what we're used to anymore on personal vehicles. The problem, as my mechanic would explain to you from like Woody Sander Ford, those cars may have 100,000 miles on them, but the engine idle time is what kills you. And the engine idle time where the car has run without really driving, but the car's on and it's just idling, would be equivalent to having 300,000 or 400,000 miles on that car.
Right.
And by the time you start getting into replacing engines, transmissions, PCM modules, which are like the brains of the thing that we've had going out, it's just not worth it,
Not worth it, yeah.
unfortunately. And so we try to be the best stewards of the cars and the resources that we have. It's just very difficult because, in my opinion, they're not making them the way they used to in the Crown Vic. I can say that. That's from my personal experience.
Yeah.
While at the same time, the cost of the cars just keeps going up. And unfortunately, those are the things I need the most of right now. I need trained
Okay.
officers in the seats of cruisers out there doing the job.
Right. Thank you.
Chief Schran, are we looking then at leasing from now on?
My goal would be to put us in the best financial position where I know that we would have a plan that's sustainable and feasible to rotate 2 cars a year so that they're just outside of warranty by the time I have to get rid of them. And if we decide, I would like to bring both of those plans to the table and say, if we're in a good financial position and we don't need to lease them, let's do that. If it makes financial sense and we're getting a good rate and it makes better sense to hold on to it and to lease it, right, then that's what I would recommend. But my goal would be to put us in the best financial position possible, bring that back to council and it'll be coming up soon with the budget season.
Yes.
And to go,
It's right
this
here.
is what I'd like. I want 2 cars next year, and these are our options. This is our option, what it's going to cost us to lease. This is what our option is going to cost us to buy, and then just to execute that plan according to the wishes.
So on those 2 plans, when you purchase a vehicle
Mm-hmm.
and when you turn it in, do we get trade-in value on that? Or I don't know how that works on government cars like that.
So when we purchase the vehicle and it's ours, when I sell that vehicle at auction or whatever, yes, we get that money back. Okay? And my understanding is that should go back into the general fund, and then that would be my wish is to turn around and go, that offsets all the cost we have in outfitting a vehicle. Because there's the initial cost of the vehicle, okay? For example, just off the top of my head, the Dodge Durangos cost me $36,000, $37,000, right? But then nothing, they always change the dimensions, so the cage partition, all of the electronics, nothing else fits from one car to the next. So now I have an additional $10,000 just in the electronics and all the other things alone. So when I sell those 2 cars, that's kind of what I asked for last year, and I'm hoping that we can still do. Sell those cars, get much as we can for them at auction price, whatever, then that money goes back in to kind of offset the $10,000 I have into outfitting the new cars.
Okay.
And that's all part of my proposal that'll coming very soon in budget season, right? To talk
Okay.
about what we plan on doing for next year and what it costs.
Okay.
And I'm gonna work both of those for you of what it would cost to price it or just purchase them outright with everything, as well as what we could get in leasing.
In,
Okay.
in your, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
In your opinion or your experience, do you seem to think that we get a fair market value on the cars that we resell? I mean, because I know they're hot engines all the time. So, oh, it's going to be in your next report. I'm going to shut up.
I will tell you it depends upon the market at the time,
Absolutely.
right? So right now, the cost of cars, new or used,
Outrageous.
is outrageous. The supply and demand drives that market, as I think we all know. So right now, the supply is low and the demand is high. I think we're going to get more than fair market value for those cars, in my opinion.
Great.
If you were to ask me that same question probably 2 years ago, I would say we were not getting that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And I understand, strictly, it's just your opinion. I want to get that out there.
Right.
We're not,
Right now, I think it's good. I don't know what the market's going to do in the next
Sure.
year or two.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that was a great police department update. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any other questions? No? Okay, so, okay, good.
I do. So on this graph that you gave us, I don't know what word to use here, but I find it interesting that the auto accidents, so for 2022, there was 239 accidents, but as of today, there's 239 accidents.
I found that kind of humorous as well.
So
But,
so we plan on going over that, right? We
so
don't want to.
So what I did in our system was I put in year to date. So I put in January to roughly August 28th when I ran these. So when I compiled that this morning for you, that was what we had January 1 of 2023 to August 28th, 2023. Then I went back and ran the same exact numbers, January 1, 2022, August 28th, 2020,
Right.
right? And this is where we were at. So year-to-date, where we were at year-to-date last year, we are up in number of citations. We are up in the number of traffic warnings, which means we are up drastically in the number of traffic stops we're making.
Right.
I wanted to highlight that for you because I have been getting some of the same complaints. I have been filtering that down to my officers, and they are showing me that they're making an effort, and I think
They
that
are.
that's a good thing, and I wanted you to be proud of them.
That is great. Thank
Right.
you.
I did find that humorous as well, that it just so happened to be that we're at the same exact number of auto accidents, right? Because I'll be honest, I saw that myself, thought it was a mistake I made. I ran it 4 times, and it is
It's the same number.
it is a coincidence, and I usually don't believe in those, but in this
Right.
case, I chuckled.
And I just want to say something too, and I know your department's probably not going to be happy with this statement, but we used to be a speed trap city. I'd like to see that reputation come back. I know it's harder and harder because there's so much traffic out there now, not like it used to be, but that would be a nice hefty goal.
I 100% agree with you, and I'm going to say that when I look forward to looking at the agenda when we get to the traffic calming portion of that, because I'm going to tell you my feelings on that, which are kind of twofold. When I'm looking at these things, I'm looking in terms of 2 different things. I'm looking for short-term solutions and long-term solutions, okay? In my opinion, I think short-term solutions are really pushing the officers out there more and more to write more tickets and to do that. I don't know that that is always going to be the end-all catch-all, right? One of the sayings in my business is you're not going to arrest your way out of every situation, right? We're not going to be able to write our tickets out of every situation and improve those drivers, right? But I think some type of a, another smart quote that I like to push around that I heard one time was, sometimes the solutions need to be as complex as the problem.
Right.
And so when it's coming to traffic and coming to those things, I think that's kind of what I'm subscribing to at this point, is going, I want to see the same thing. I want to see the officers out there enforcing those laws. I want to see them writing the tickets, and I want to see them making those traffic stops. But I'm going to be honest, and I look forward to that conversation, the traffic calming portion, because I also look forward to being in a position to have those honest conversations about long-term solutions in the traffic calming. So
Well,
that
we can go ahead and talk about traffic calming now. That's,
We can jump the agenda.
yeah, we'll just jump there now because
Okay.
we've been kind of talking about it, bouncing around. And, I know I have some ideas and Ms. G-Wald has some ideas and I believe Ms. Blythe has some ideas as well. So since you're here, one of the things that I had noticed when I'm driving through College Hill is like they have these kind of white things like near the
Rails,
crosswalks, like you've seen what I'm talking, like some kind of just post, and they just kind of block, I think, cars from zipping around in certain places, just kind of driving down that lane, the speed around, I think. It just slows things down in the morning when you're driving down through there. And I'm just wondering how that might work around the school on Hamilton, where the crosswalk is with the lights. I don't know. I just was wondering about that. But just if you could just tell us your thoughts.
So I know that Ms. Ike has started some of those studies with JMA and started some of those conversations in a lot of ways. And I look forward to seeing some more of what they could do, because besides just what College Hill is doing, because I've seen those and I kind of like those.
Right.
My personal thoughts are, I actually like the idea of more of a raised crosswalk. And I like the raised crosswalk idea, and that's just my personal feelings. I like the raised crosswalk in the area of Kroger's, and I like the raised crosswalk in the area, if you would, of probably Hamilton and Galbraith. And I would like to see that study be presented from the traffic engineer standpoint and keeping those things in mind, as well as getting honestly, I'd love to link that in with the comprehensive plan. And I think Ms. Iki is on board with that. That's why she had that done. So it can kind of be all of that. We can all kind of get behind that and figure out where we want to go with those things. My thought process behind those two to start are, number one, when looking at our numbers of fatal auto accidents, pedestrians hit, just everything in general that way, pure auto accidents, honestly, right around Kroger's and the bus stop and the things that are right there before Ronald Reagan Highway are by far and in large our biggest area of concern. When it comes to auto accidents, it comes to all of those.
Okay.
So to leave that area out, I think would be kind of a miss for us. I think that would be the first and foremost. You know, Kroger's is a big business in North College Hill. I think lots of folks come from other places, from whether it be Mount Healthy, College Hill, anywhere else, to come shop at our Kroger's. It's right there on the bus line. It's right off of Ronald Reagan. And I think our numbers, and like I said, fatal auto accidents, injury auto accidents, sheer number of auto accidents, I think all highlight the same thing. That is an area of need, right? I like the raised crosswalk from several portions because, number one, it kind of raises everything up. It acts more like a gradual speed bump
Right.
without tearing up people's cars, but also giving you that added visual to slow people down, as well as the highlighted that way. It also has with the raised crosswalk, has a small raised platform where it's easier to see people.
Right.
Right? So I was disappointed that, yes, during 2022 or 2021, you know, in an area of 2 square miles, we had 3 fatalities in auto accidents, right?
Yeah.
So again, those are all things that I look at and I go, you know, we've been down that road a couple of times, but I would still think that the Hamilton Avenue being a major state route, the state knows that Hamilton and Galbraith is one of their 25 busiest intersections, right, in the state of Ohio. Clover Nook Center for the Blind, who does a wonderful job, right, was wanting to be willing partners with us because of all that we have to pay out as a city, right, to benefit their folks and their clients, right? Then you put in the fact that Kroger's and the All Walking School District. To me, if you can slow down that corridor of Hamilton Avenue by putting in raised crosswalks and the things there and protecting everybody from our students to the Clover Nook Center for the Blind clients to everybody who comes to visit us at Kroger's, you've maximized our outreach, if you would, with our minimum resources. And I think that all of those things would be great things that state representatives as well as folks at ODOT want to see when they're looking at our numbers. And I think we have all those things there. So I think it's just getting us all together and pushing towards those.
So when you say raised crosswalks, like how raised, how high off the ground?
So I'm looking at, so the last time that North College Hill did a study, and I know Mr. Mosby did that study. I'm looking at a lot of the stuff because the one great thing that I got from that study that I know that folks that work on council at that time, the first 10 pages of that study were all from the traffic engineers at all the possible traffic calming measures, their pros and cons of it. So that's kind of where I took those first 10 pages, I kind of pushed everything else out, and I applied that, because that was that traffic study that they were doing along Galbraith Road,
Right.
right? I pushed it out and didn't worry about Galbraith Road, but then I applied those things, right, and with my knowledge and my numbers for everything else to that. So I think there is in that first 10 pages, there's a thing on the raised crosswalk from the engineers that talk about exactly how tall it needs to be, how wide it needs to be, the markings and the stuff that way. And so please don't quote me on that. I don't know how tall it is, but when I looked at that compared to just speed bumps or just lighted LED crosswalks, which I love, right, I thought that maximized our benefits and our potential, if you would, given those high traffic areas and what we were looking to do.
Okay.
I also like the idea, it's probably not gonna be, I like the idea of kind of limiting some of the lanes, if you would, coming in on Hamilton Avenue.
That's what I thought.
And I also can say that I put in my proposal to Ms. Ike, drastically changing Simpson. Part of my thought process behind Simpson was I go down and I drive through Simpson, and they're faded, but you can still see the school marking signs on the ground from Becker Elementary.
Right.
And Becker hasn't been there since, what, 2009?
Maybe earlier than that, I think. It seemed like longer than that, but
So we haven't changed the pavement markings, we haven't changed the road, we haven't done anything for a decade or more, right? I think it's overdue.
Okay.
One of the biggest complaints that I get on a daily basis in the police department is always parking. And the biggest is always from the southwest. So what I'm trying to do is looking for what I like to always call a win-win. If it's a win for the community, win for us, then that's something we probably want to do.
And
I
so
like the
maybe adding parking to Simpson.
What I like the idea of right now, it's 3 lanes. And it's wider than you would probably ever need.
Right.
And most of it was a turn lane to get into Becker Elementary School,
Right.
right? If you were to make it 2 lanes, and you were to take one of the lanes and make it parking, and make it the bump outs with the curbs like you see along Professional, nice, along Galbraith Road in the
Right.
business corridor,
Yep.
it would look pretty. You could entice some of the businesses there if you wanted to. At the same time, you would provide more on-street parking, which would alleviate some of that concern for folks in the southwest section of town who don't always have driveways, utilize the street for parking, right? And it would have the natural effect of having those appealing curbs, appealing streetlights, and appealing parking spots, right? To narrow that down to 2 lanes, which in a residential road like that, I think you would want and need, right? And it would have that natural traffic calming effect while adding aesthetics to it. And I think that's just my suggestion, but I think if that should be part of that comprehensive plan and those plans moving forward to what that looks like. I
Okay.
could also see that going extremely well in other areas like Goodman, Hamilton coming in from like Tremont and from North Bend, right? Narrowing that down, making it 2 lanes has a natural traffic calming effect while
Right.
providing more on-street parking. And you update and fix up some of the aesthetics, and I think that that would go a long way in helping the economic development, a lot of other things through here, while having that natural effect to help the traffic calming that we're talking about.
Okay.
Those are just my 2 cents.
All of those things sound really, really wonderful. I hadn't even thought of that, but that really would work on Simpson Avenue. Just those parking spaces with the curb. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because if you look, I mean, when you go to other communities and you look at streets and things, that's almost every street you go to is 2 lanes.
Absolutely.
You have those turn lanes, in my opinion, were created so that you had plenty, because when Becker Elementary was there and it was busy and you had buses coming in and out of there, you would have people who were backed up, dropping their kids off to school
Right.
all the way up through there. It's why there's still a stop sign there on Waltham or on Simpson by Waltham,
Right.
right? Now, I'm going to be honest, I've never wanted that stop sign to go away because it would just make it a straightaway and more like a drag strip,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But if you provided more parking, you did the natural traffic calming and took it down to 2 lanes, right? I don't necessarily know that you would need to have that, but then that's neither here nor there. But I think you would have that natural effect because there wouldn't be those many places to go.
I was
And
just about to
don't
say,
think you
yeah,
need that
I think
turn
you're right.
lane.
Yeah, it just
Right.
slows things down.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think you need that turn lane there, right? In
Right.
normal residential areas, you don't need a 3-lane road to go
Right.
there,
Right.
right?
Right.
And most of the time when we have accidents or we have problems there, it's because somebody's parking and running up to the house or something like that. If you have natural parking and it's down to 2 lanes, I think everybody gets what they want.
Right.
And I think it would be more attractive and it would have that natural benefit
idea.
of,
That's a great idea.
right?
Simpson.
Because I think that, and I'd have to go back to be sure, but I'm pretty confident that when they did the traffic studies on Galbraith, they found that there were higher speeds in the 3-lane area with the turn lane down by the
Right.
golf course than they
Yep.
did in the business district when it was down to 2 lanes,
Yep.
right? And I think that that was one of the recommendations of that I saw when Mr. Mosby had that study done, of they were talking about trying to do something with that turn lane there.
Put some islands in there.
Exactly.
mentioned
To try
that,
to
a
naturally
few.
slow them down and to not let people go through there. I
Mm-hmm.
think you have the same exact thing on Simpson. I think you almost have the same exact thing on Hamilton coming into town. Now, I
Right.
think once you get down the hill and you start getting the busy business district, I do believe it needs to be 4 lanes, right? I've seen with them doing construction over the last month on Hamilton Avenue down by Clover Knoll Huntington Bank. I've seen what it's like when it's down to 2 lanes, right?
Right.
You know, I wholeheartedly understand that. But I also don't think it needs to be 4 lanes from the area of Tremont, Oak Knoll, until you get down the hill either.
Right.
And I think naturally slowing them down, right, and everybody coming out of College Hill, City of Cincinnati, going from 35 to 25, I think that natural calming effect before it widens to get to our businesses, I think would have a great benefit, as well as the parking and the other things that we could do.
Okay.
And again, that's just my opinion based on my experience and the traffic studies that I've seen.
Right.
And I look forward to seeing what Ms. Iki has and the JMA proposal, because I know I didn't personally sit down with them. I had Lieutenant Wall Engelbert sit down with them. But I spent a lot of time with her working on exactly those that I presented to you. And I know I'm long-winded, but usually I'm a pretty good salesman when it comes to that.
That's okay. I did have another question, because I know that I've mentioned this several times, and I really am serious about it. I mentioned to my colleagues that I want to do $1,000 fines on running a stop sign. What do you think?
So you would know better than I. I am being told by Diane and others that we are already at the max by the Ohio Revised Code based on the fines that we can do. I know that
It depends on the ordinance. Now, obviously, if we're following their fine structures, that's one thing, but if there's a specific issue in our community, we're allowed to write an ordinance as long as it doesn't conflict with the state, like the Ohio Revised Code. We're allowed to write, an ordinance just for our community, so.
So I know that last year that I know that Diane Ms. Toll sent out a bunch of information to the various mayor's courts around us. And when I looked at our payout sheets for our traffic citations or our traffic everything, we had not updated the fine schedule in several years. But if you were to look at our fine sheets and our schedules now, they have been updated to the max where everybody else was around us and on the mayor's court as of last year. Because we knew coming out of COVID-19 time, everything like that, we needed to keep up, and we hadn't done it for years. So I'm going to fall back on those two and go, I don't know, because I haven't done that much research on it. And when it comes to the Ohio Revised Code and those things, Ms. Underwood, I am always going to defer to you. And I enjoy those conversations. I just don't know.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
But I do think that this year I am happy with where we're at in our fine schedules, knowing that we hadn't updated it in a long time. We updated it and we went to the max with everybody else. And I think we're in conjunction with where everybody else is.
Okay.
The other mayor's courts and the other folks are around us. And so I am satisfied with that. I'm not satisfied completely with all of our numbers, but I am
Right.
happier that they're out there doing that. My personal feelings are, I'm happy with it now. I would say maybe let's have this conversation again this time next year and see if everybody else around us has gone up and what they're
Okay.
doing as well.
Now, what about just when people kind of refuse to pay? I know that Ms. Toll, I think she's the person who kind of follows up on that, but are we doing warrant blocks in mayor's court and that kind of, are we using those kinds of tools?
Yes.
Okay,
I can tell you that from my experience, Ms. Toll is very good at using the other resources besides just putting a traffic capias on somebody. She is very good and very diligent when it comes to using the warrant blocks and using the BMV to do that. And she has had great success with that and sending out letters, as well as, yes, we have a lot of folks as of recently that have been coming in and paying citations or starting to take care of their issues because of those warrant blocks. I think it's a very good tool, and I can tell you from my experience, from what I've seen, she does a very good job of following up
okay,
with that.
great.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
what is the maximum payout for running a stop sign in North College Hill at this time? I'm just curious.
Give me a second. I'll try to look that up.
Thank you. Just curious.
I'm going to say, looking at our payout ticket, it's $150, and that's just if it's a payout. Usually then if there's somebody contesting it, going to court, anything like that, then you have your court cost and your other things associated with it. But it looks like we're at $150.
$150. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Did anybody have anything else with regard to the traffic calming? I know that we had been talking about it for quite some time, and Ms. Iki is actually getting us an updated traffic study. We have talked about speed bumps. Are you familiar with the speed bumps like that they have on Reading Road?
I've seen some, I don't go over to Reading Road nearly as often. My general feelings on the speed bumps, I generally don't like the speed bumps, but I don't like them just because how the height and usually how narrow they are and how aggressive it can be.
Okay, so the
Especially
ones that,
First responder.
yeah, the ones on Reading Road are not as like steep or as harsh, I will say, as the ones that we have in North College Hill. The ones that, they don't kind of look like that. They're kind of longer. And they're square and they're kind of cover a bigger portion of the lane. So it's very difficult to kind of describe, but you have to slow down because there's so many of them. They're obnoxious. It just slows things down a lot. The only thing I can tell you is you really just have to go over, if you're ever in that area, to see them. Just that portion of Reading Road near where the Avondale Town Center used to be, where people would just be flying down through there. There is no more of that. It is absolutely slow down. It has just done a really good job.
And that's usually generally, and that's why I presented my idea of the race crosswalk based on all of the different traffic calming projections or ideas that were in the last couple of rounds that we've done of traffic surveys and studies. I like it when it's more gradual.
Right.
So it forces you to slow down, but it's not gonna do damage to somebody's car, and it's not gonna do damage to the first responder vehicles if
Right.
we have to get somewhere. And it's not as steep or harsh, if you would, on
Right.
those things.
Jolting.
While still getting the same result, right? And when I couple that with the idea of where are you placing it? Because normally I see the speed bumps in between everything, right? Which will slow you down, but you can still speed up and get to everything else. I really like the idea of slowing people down before we get to crosswalks and major intersections,
Right.
where most of our residents, pedestrians, and at-risk folks are. I really like the ideas of that.
Okay.
If I'm looking at my job from a public safety standpoint, and, you know, as many of the public as I can safely and keep them safe, that's why I like the raised crosswalk and the gradualness of all of it. Again, I've said it numerous times, when I look for in negotiations and things that way, is it's gotta be a win for everybody,
Okay.
right? I don't want it to be, oh, it's a win for us because it's cheaper and we threw it out there, but it's not nearly as a win for everybody else. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
So, when I'm looking at it, I liked the fact that the last couple of studies, they had the first 10 pages with all of the different ideas on there, from speed bumps to raised crosswalks to raised intersections to, right, bump out curbs to all kinds of different things. And they kind of gave pictures of them and dimensions of them, and they kind of gave a pros and cons of what that was. So that's kind of what I'm going off of, is my experience in North College Hill here, the numbers that I have access to, right? And then I enjoy those kind of conversations and going, just because it's my idea doesn't mean it's the only one or by far the right one. I just
Right.
enjoy having the adult conversations and going, I look forward to having those some more with all of that information in front of us. So
And I really think if we're gonna keep that corridor of Hamilton Avenue as 4 lanes, putting some of those longer they're just a longer speed bump.
Right.
Not quite as high, but just a longer, you have to slow down when you get to it. Cause there's a little bit of a raise, but it's just a longer, you kind of go up over it and go down, and then you go a little bit, and then there's another one, and then there's another one. And so it doesn't cause damage, I would imagine, to anybody's car, but it definitely slows things down.
And I think I'm saying the same thing, because in my perfect vision, I would love nothing more than to have a raised crosswalk there, or raised crosswalks in the area of Hamilton Galbraith.
Right,
Same thing there at Bising, right across from Clover Nook Center for the Blind,
Right.
and where the school kids are coming out.
Right.
Now they have the new LED crosswalk there, having that raised platform. It'll do all of the same things that you're talking about, right? And then potentially having the same thing down at Kroger's. And if you wanted to, right, depending upon if you need it or not, and let's face it, that's what drives the world, how much money and how many resources we have to do so, you could also do the same thing in front of Huntington, right? And besides just throwing it out there to say, is it just for slowing everybody down? Is it just for potentially ruining people's cars? No. It's also based on, those are where a lot of our pedestrians go. That's where a lot of our
Right.
business traffic is. That's where a lot of the clients for Clover Nook Center for the Blind
Right.
come in,
absolutely.
right? It is to slow everybody down, but it's also protect the residents and the folks that we have that come to enjoy, right? And to shop and to be part of North College Hill. And I like all of those things. So I think you and I are saying the same things.
Okay.
I would just like our limited resources to be able to have multiple purposes, multiple functions. Excuse me.
Okay, so we kind of jumped over a couple of things to get to traffic calming. That was under old business. And I was asked to add the police contract to our agenda as well. Does anybody have any questions about the police contract, since we have Chief Shrend here.
And we only have, what, 8, 9 minutes left?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, if we-
however long,
exactly.
yeah.
Is there anything in here that has changed drastically? It's very similar to the last time? So there's nothing that we really need to look at and focus on, just
And,
because it's so small print.
sorry. I printed one out. I'll be more than happy to give you my copy.
I know I can make this work, because, I'll just study it like 5 minutes at a time. Because my eyes will be tired.
I'm going to fall on the sword on this one and say it's my fault. When we negotiated the full-time contract, we also kind of did the part-time contract, but we wanted to have the full-time contract, and they kind of said, okay, ratify the full-time contract, and then the part-time contract is just everything falls in line. The only thing that they were asking for, because it was all wage reopeners, was just for the top-out pay for the part-time folks to match that of the lowest or the starting pay scale of the full-time folks. That's really the only major differences, other than
Okay.
cleaning up a few language items. Okay?
Okay.
So everything kind of fell in line. We did not have any other meetings on the part-time contract. Everything was met and kind of agreed upon when we agreed upon the full-time contract. And then it kind of fell by the wayside with all the stuff we had going on with Miss Iki coming in, me
Right.
going back into other roles. And I was waiting for a long time to get, honestly, the time to be able to work with the union representatives to type this up and just put it in a format to send to you.
Okay.
And then I didn't get it right on time. So that's why we're so far kind of behind in a lot of ways. It just kind of fell by the wayside and we forgot about it with the 3 part-time folks that we had.
Okay, no worries.
So there's nothing in there that scares me. There's nothing in there that I think is, a big jump or a huge anything or a big ask that was different or anything else that I would say that we would need to talk about or go into executive session on. I think if you look at that in comparison with the full-time contract that we just did, I think you'll see that everything just falls right in line, and the only things that they were really asking for was exactly that.
Right.
The wage reopener and it to fall in line with what the full-time officers.
And now that I blurted that out, I looked at like the 4th page, and there are strikeouts showing what's been taken out. So we can target those areas.
I tried to give you those copies so you
Sorry,
could
I
see
asked that
what was,
question.
so you could see what was changed and.
Yes.
Okay.
Or should I say strike-throughs? I'm watching too much baseball, I guess.
And, yeah, and I apologize for any of the miscommunication or why it's taken so long to get to everybody. It's entirely my fault. And
Well, we have it now.
I understand,
burning the
things-
candle at both ends sometimes.
Absolutely, and how when you're working on one project, things pile up on your desk, and, I understand probably better than just about anybody how that happens, so, no worries. I have kind of skimmed through this, and I mean, I didn't see anything that, it kind of jumped out at me, so just wondered if, and I know that, so if anyone has any questions, is it okay for them to send you an
Absolutely.
email? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So we will report back to council that, that you're receptive to emails. Okay. Okay, so anybody else have any questions? Any further questions about the police contract?
No.
I actually have a completely unrelated question since I have you sitting over there. So in recent times, and I don't know how I feel about this, I'm not a gun person. I should probably say that. I'm not a fan. That being said, I respect other people's rights. What is your opinion about, and we'll call this new business, about gun safety ordinance or gun safety storage? requirement?
So I feel that anybody, I am a gun person, and I do like shooting sports. I do like doing all of those things, but I do think that anybody who owns guns ought to be responsible for them. I think that anybody who, right, it's kind of like a driver's license. It's a privilege, right? And I think that there should be respect for those tools. And that respect should also be given to storing them and how they're going about. I have mixed feelings on different gun storage laws and different things, because my take from all of the history classes and the things are there's two ways to do it. You can, as a government, you can fine and discipline and take care of those, negative reinforcement, or you can do positive reinforcement. I don't see a whole lot of positive reinforcement any longer, right?
Okay, so when you say positive reinforcement, what do you mean?
So, and I think that the two should be coupled together, to let me finish. Yeah. So, positive reinforcement. Before COVID hit, I was actually working with a lot of folks on trying to get gun safes and to distribute all of the free gun locks, and trying to have the police department almost be more of the center of that, of if you own a gun in North College Hill, right? Not a registry, not anything else, right?
Right.
We want to be able to provide, whether it be just through relationship. I mean, we were working with Harbor Freight, for example, where Harbor Freight originally was going to say, you know what, their digital gun safes or their digital safes, they were going to mark down to $10, right? And if they let us sell them or us give a coupon to somebody, and if you're a homeowner, resident, somebody in North College Hill, you come up, no questions asked, here's that coupon or that whatever program, go to Harbor Freight and do that, right? And to incentivize people to lock up their guns responsibly,
Okay,
right? I'm not saying that I don't disagree with the laws and the fines and the punishments for not locking them up, but I want to see both things used, if that makes sense,
it does,
right?
right.
Not only tell them that and show folks that we want them to lock it up, and not be the first to just go, we're gonna take punitive and criminal, right, towards you if you don't do it right, but also give them a path and an avenue and an easy way to make it right and to make it safer.
Okay,
And I think again, I used that quote earlier when I said I think sometimes the solutions need to be as complex as the problems, right? I like both in conjunction, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
that makes
And
sense.
so I would love to revitalize that program. I was working with Pastor King from the church on bets to do exactly that. And I know that there was a lot of folks interested in a project like that, to try to pass out gun locks, to try to keep those guns safe. So besides just laws that hinder people's ability to go and purchase guns legally, right? To keep the guns out of criminals' hands, right? The guns that are being stolen out of people's cars, the guns that are being stolen
Right.
out of people's homes. I see a lot of that.
Oh,
And
wow, okay,
I mean, over the years, when I was looking at that project, now it's been a little bit, I haven't had the numbers, right, because that was pre-COVID, but we were averaging, to my knowledge, just our 2 square miles in North College Hill, we were averaging 10 to 12, if not more, firearms stolen just out of places here in North College Hill, whether that was, I have a CCW license and I leave my gun in the car, and then my car's broken into because it's parked out on the street.
right, okay,
Or I leave it unlocked in the house, right? And that gun is now stolen. Well, I can tell you that 100% of those guns that we recover are all recovered in other crimes. Right? And so if we want to be serious, and you're asking me, and I appreciate the question, as a police chief that cares, what are we doing about gun violence? Without having that conversation about what are we doing to our part as residents and as responsible gun owners of keeping those guns out of other people's hands,
Right.
right? My answer is exactly that. Well, I would like to see both. I would like to see, one, there be some punitive damages as a reminder. If you're not going to be responsible and you're not going to keep your guns safe, right, there should be some punishment or some reminder,
Right.
right? But on the same token, I would love to see more programs, not only here in North College Hill, but all over the place, right? That also gives responsible gun owners an opportunity, and an easy opportunity and greater availability to safes, gun locks, and those things available, as well as training classes, so that we can keep those guns safe.
I like that.
Kind of leveraging both.
Okay.
People's rights to own guns and people's rights to have their freedoms
Right.
in the Constitution, while at the same time saying, I think we have a right as well to keep those guns out of people's hands that shouldn't, and
Right.
to keep those guns off the street, and to not have those violent crimes attributed back to guns that came from North College Hill or any
Right.
other communities. And I think when you do that, you're going to see a lot more of drop in the violent crime and the things that way.
Okay. That's actually a really good idea. Gun safes and the gun locks.
Yeah.
I mean, you have, in my opinion, you had, and I've heard about it for years, you have lots of programs like gun buyback programs in major cities where we're throwing money at folks to turn in those guns that are found. But I've hardly ever heard of folks shelling out the money to help keeping those guns out of those hands.
Right.
And keeping those guns safe.
That's what I would like
In
to,
my
yeah.
opinion, that's just my humble opinion, that's the part that government's missing.
Okay.
I think that used, in just my humble opinion, in conjunction with the other, I think could have a major dent in the violent crime and keeping the guns off people's streets. But I
Okay.
think we need to have those conversations, and honestly, I think that needs to be the startup capital and the money, because it always comes down to that sometimes.
Right, of
right?
course. Yep.
Who's gonna step up to the plate? How are we gonna get the gun safes? How are we gonna have and fund those programs for gun safety? How to turn in the gun locks, the other things? I mean, right
Okay.
now, I've been stockpiling them. I have cases and cases of gun locks for handguns,
Oh, wow. Okay.
right? That I love to hand out, I'd love to be able to do, and have the free gun safety classes, right? I also want to get back into that with that relationship I was starting with Harbor Freight, or any other place for that matter, because Harbor Freight just happens to be one of the inexpensive places that was willing to work with us, where
Okay.
you could get a personal safe that had a key to it and would lock with a cord, so you could actually lock it up, and they would have to have, it was like a bicycle lock cord.
Right.
You could lock it anywhere in the car,
Oh, wow. I like that.
right? So it wasn't easy to steal it out of the car. You would actually
Right.
have to cut it, like, take a bolt cutter and cut it, or you would have to pry the lockbox open and all kinds of other things, right? And
Right.
so if you're the person that legally owns a firearm, wants to carry it in your vehicle, right, my recommendation is still don't leave it in the vehicle.
Don't
Take it
leave it,
in
yeah,
with you
right.
at night. However, that's not always feasible. There are some places that won't let you take it onto their property, and you're gonna need to lock it in the car.
Right.
So lock it up responsibly. And then in your house, yes, have a gun safe, have a place that you would have that safe bolted to the ground, bolted to the wall. You could have easy access to it, but not everybody else would do it. We could keep the guns out of the hands of kids. We can have, limit the accidental shootings, as well as, honestly, if somebody happened to break into your home, that gun stays safe, locked in that safe
Right.
at your house rather than on the street.
On the street, right.
For somebody else.
Okay.
And I like both of those in conjunction, if that makes sense.
That actually sounds much better than what I was thinking. Okay, so I'm the one who was kind of going over today, but ladies, is there any other questions that we have for Chief Schrand?
No, I think everything's been covered.
I've got.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. The information was wonderful. And if all minds and hearts are clear, it is 8:36. We will adjourn our meeting at this time. Thank you. And thank you very much, Chief Schrand.
You're very welcome. Thank you.